It was one of those nights where everything felt too quiet, too perfectly still. You know the kind. No cars rumbling down the street, no distant hum of neighbors' TVs, not even the usual chirp of crickets. Just silence. Thick, heavy silence that presses against your ears like cotton wool. I was hunched over my desk, buried in work, the glow of my laptop casting harsh shadows across the room. The clock ticked steadily toward 3 a.m., but I wasn't tired. Not yet. My coffee cup sat cold beside me, untouched for hours. I stretched my arms, cracked my neck, and glanced out the window. The street below was deserted. Only the flickering streetlights cast faint pools of yellow on the pavement, their bulbs buzzing softly as if protesting the late hour. Shadows danced along the road, twisting unnaturally in the dim light. For a moment I thought about how peaceful the night usually felt. But tonight something was off. That's when I saw it, or rather them. A figure stood across the street near the corner of an old house. They were completely still, facing my window. At first I told myself it was nothing, a passerby, maybe someone waiting for a ride. But they didn't move, not an inch. They just stood there, frozen like a statue, staring directly at me. I squinted, trying to make out any details. Too dark, too far away. All I could see was a tall shape, silhouetted against the weak light of the street lamp. Something about it made my skin crawl. Maybe it was the way the shadows seemed to cling to them, or how the wind rustled the trees around them, but left them untouched. I shook my head. Probably just someone lost in thought, I muttered aloud, though the words sounded hollow even to me. I turned back to my desk, forcing myself to focus, but the unease lingered, settling deep in my gut like a stone. Minutes passed. I couldn't resist the urge to look again. When I did, the figure was still there, still watching, but now, something had changed. They turned slightly, their head tilted ever so subtly, as if they were looking right at me, right through me. My heart skipped a beat. I blinked hard, convinced my eyes were playing tricks on me. But when I opened them again, the figure was closer. Not by much, but enough to send a fresh wave of dread coursing through me. They were standing at the foot of the driveway across the street now, as if they'd taken deliberate steps toward my house, toward me. My breath hitched. What kind of person stands motionless in the middle of the night, creeping closer to someone else's home? I grabbed my phone, fingers trembling as I tried to unlock the screen. Call someone. Anyone. Distract yourself. But my hands shook so badly I couldn't even swipe the passcode. Frustrated, I slammed it back onto the desk, and then I heard it. A soft knock. Tentative. Almost polite. It came from the window. I froze, every muscle in my body locking up. My phone slipped from my sweaty palm, hitting the desk with a dull thud. The knock came again, louder this time. Persistent. 3 sharp taps against the glass. Tap, tap, tap. My heart thundered in my chest. Who could it be at this hour? And why were they knocking on my second-floor window? I hadn't opened it. I hadn't even moved since sitting down at my desk. Yet the sound was unmistakable. Real. Against every instinct screaming at me to stay put, I crept toward the window. Slowly, carefully, I pulled the curtain back just enough to peek outside. There it was. The figure. Closer now. Close enough that I could make out the faint outline of its features in the dim light. Its face was shadowed, indistinct, but somehow disturbingly familiar. Like I'd seen it before, in a dream, or perhaps in a memory I couldn't quite place. Then it raised a hand and pressed it flat against the glass. Not a wave, not a greeting, just a hand pressing hard against the window pane. Its dark, hollow eyes locked onto mine, unblinking, unwavering. I stumbled backward, nearly tripping over my chair. My mind raced. Was this some sick prank? Someone messing with me? I bolted toward the door, fumbling for my keys, ready to run downstairs and confront whoever, or whatever, was outside. But before I could turn the knob, I heard it. A voice, software whispery, unmistakable. "Let me in." The voice didn't come from outside. It came from just behind the door. I froze, hand on the doorknob, breath caught in my throat. Another soft knock echoed through the wood, muffled but insistent. My pulse pounded in my ears. Every fiber of my being screamed to get out, to escape, but I couldn't move. Another knock, louder this time, more urgent. I snapped out of it. Without thinking, I bolted out of my room and into the hallway, slamming the door shut behind me. My hands shook as I twisted the lock, sealing myself off from whatever was on the other side. For a moment, there was silence. Blessed, deafening silence. I leaned against the wall, clutching my knees to my chest, trying to steady my breathing. Had I imagined it? Was it all in my head? But then I heard it. Faint, distant, coming from inside my room. Footsteps. Morning came slowly, dragging itself into existence like a reluctant guest. I didn't sleep, not really. Every creak of the floorboards, every whisper of wind kept me wide awake, clinging to the hope that daylight would banish whatever nightmare had invaded my home. When the sun finally rose, I forced myself to open the curtains. The street was empty, quiet, normal. The houses stood silent, no sign of anyone lurking outside. Relief washed over me. Maybe it had been a prank, or worse, a hallucination brought on by stress and exhaustion. But then I saw it. On the inside of the window, smeared across the glass like a grotesque signature, was a faint handprint. Not outside, inside.